All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Neuro Fundamentals, where today we are looking at core stability. I think we had a question come in about training core stability, and I seem to have lost it, couldn't find where it was, so decided let's just run this entire session on improving core stability, core strength, and things like that. Couple of things to note before we get into it today. You will notice that not very much of the work that I'm going to be doing is going to be lying down. Okay, so traditionally that's what most people are normally used to, looking at building strength in the muscles around the core. Surely is going to help build core strength in general. And we seem to be finding that might help a little in certain cases, but certainly not all the time. And actually, when you build really strong muscles lying down, that doesn't always necessarily translate to when you're standing up. So we'll have a few things that go down to the ground, assuming we've got time for all the stuff I have planned. Otherwise, we're actually going to do everything standing up. And core strength and core stability is one of those really weird things where people say, "Oh, I actually can't engage my core." That's just physically not true. It's not possible for that to be true. Usually, what that means is actually when I'm standing up, if I'm standing up at all, there's going to be some kind of core engagement. If I'm struggling to actually hold myself rigid, tight, whatever it is that you want to call. Possibly it is the muscles, which a Pilates style approach is going to look at fixing. The other possibility is that it's everything else around. So the muscles are definitely sometimes an issue. Sometimes it's your spine. Sometimes it's your eyes. Sometimes it's your inner ear. And those are the main things that we're going to be looking at today. So let's just get right into it. And today, as always, we're going to start with some breathing. The breathing exercise we're going to do today, a little bit similar to last week, is we're going to look at that diaphragm stretch, but we're going to look at it standing up. And unlike in the relaxation exercises we did before, we're not going to cut this one short. So we're really going to be exhaling as far as we possibly can. Again, this is one way that you're probably going to feel all of the muscles around your trunk, maybe even all the way up to your shoulders, actually start to work. So very, very quick recap on the diaphragm stretch. So normally, traditionally, you're lying down, you'll take a breath in through the nose, and when you're lying down, then you're going to lift your arms up above your head, you're going to exhale, nice and forcefully, nice and loud, out of the mouth, okay? It's got to be a big amount of force to get the diaphragm engaging properly. You're going to do this, you're going to be exhaling for as long as you can possibly go until you've got no breath left, okay? And really try to collapse your own lungs if that's a helpful way to think about it. Don't worry, you won't be able to, but you're really pushing as hard as you possibly can. Now, to translate exactly what we do lying down to standing up, what we're going to do is, first of all, make sure our pelvis is tucked in, okay? So when you're lying down on the ground, you say kind of tuck the pelvis in, make sure your back is flat on the ground. When you're standing, we're going to want to be doing the same thing. So you're going to just roll that pelvis in. Then you've got the breath in, and on the floor, usually we lift our arms up over our head. Two different ways that you can do that, okay? So you could just lift your arms straight up over your head. Not everybody finds that particularly comfortable. So the other way you can do it, hands onto your back, okay? So you're still going to get the elbows lifted up, which is where the additional stretch is going to come from, but you don't have to hold your arms straight up. So that's the version I'm going to do. I'll do one example. If you're not already ahead of me, then just feel free to follow along. So I'm going to tuck the pelvis. I'm going to do deep breath in, arms over, and Cool. I'm sure if you can see me shake on camera or not there, but again, you're really trying to empty everything out. I apologize if I keep looking. For some reason, the angle of my laptop makes it look like there's someone in the waiting room, but it doesn't look like that's the case. You can keep going. We're going to do 3 to 5 of these. So just while I'm trying to explain. So again, we want all of the core training stuff that we do to translate to standing up at the very least. Just because actually when we're trying to engage the core, that's when we're going to be using it. Okay, and in another video, we might look at more of the Pilates style exercises about actually strengthening those muscles. But for today, this is the way we want to look at it, because actually I find this is much more important to know about, because if you strengthen all the muscles on the ground, get up, your vestibular system, your eyes, your lungs, your spine, any of those things say, we still don't think this is a good idea, we're still not happy, then you're still not going to be able to get that core engagement, core stability when you're standing up. After we've done those breaths, so if you've done 3 to 5 reps, just relax there. What we're going to look at now is just a real quick assessment. So I always say actually a nice assessment of how stable your core is able to be when you're standing up is to try out some shoulder circles and see how much additional movement you get from your body. Okay, so we're just going to go through those. Also, shoulder circles can be super useful for a bunch of other things as well. So we're going to go through them now. Let's say we're going to do 3 circles in each position, and for our shoulders, we've got 6 positions to go through. Okay, so we've got 3 circles across your body, and you want to see, first of all, can you do them at just a comfortable speed without moving in your torso? Then you're going to move it to in front of your body. So 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles. Then we're going to go to down below. Then we're going to go up high. Extra marks in this one if you can avoid bending the elbow. Then we're going to come out to the side. For a lot of people, this might be where you start to feel a lot starting to move, especially if you're going at the same speed. And then you're going to go behind your back. Okay, and then we're just going to reverse that the other direction. So this is a fairly slow speed. So actually, if you just consciously think about it, you should be able to keep everything, maintain everything, keep it nice and still, just by thinking about keeping it nice and still. You don't even need to think about, you know, what muscles am I engaging, how tall am I in my spine, or anything like that. We'll move on to just the same thing on the other side. So it's going to be 3 circles across the body. See, is this side any different? 3 circles in front, 3 circles below, 3 above, 3 out to the side, just making sure I'm not going to punch the wall, and 3 behind your back. Then we'll reverse it the other direction. So again, now we want to know, is the movement happening only when I'm using one arm versus another? If so, that's going to affect how we do some of this core training, and I'll explain that in just a little second. Okay, so that was regular speed. I'm going to ask everybody to do it one more time. This time I'm going to do 5 circles, and we're going to do what we call a sport speed. Okay, so this is going to be as fast as you can possibly perform the circles doing them properly. Okay, so that means you're not going to be lifting your shoulder up and down. You're not going to be bending the arms. It still has to be a circle from the shoulder, but you're going to do it as fast as you can go. And then you're going to reverse it. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with how that went for me. Actually, I didn't feel too much movement going on. The idea being, once you get to this speed, it's actually harder to concentrate on what you're doing here, as well as doing this one correctly. So if you start to notice a lot changing, that's a good sign that actually some of these systems really aren't engaging very well, and that you're going to want to work on that. You can be trying on the other side now, so I'll just briefly talk you through. You've got across the body, you've got in front, down, up, out to the side, and to the back. Just work your way in the sports speed all the way through that. Again, figure out, is it different one side than the other? Usually if it was different on one side at regular speed, it will be worse on that side for the sports speed. Not always the case though. Sometimes it does change, but I don't have anything for that today. It's a little more complicated. Okay, so got a kind of idea of how we're moving. If you could do this totally straight, don't worry, that's all good. We're still going to do the training. It still could be beneficial to do some horse training. Another thing that you could look at is your ability to do a sit-up. So you could lie flat on the floor. Again, I'm not such a big fan of this one because it involves lying down, as I said, and that's not where we're doing the majority of this work. But here, you're just going to reach elbows over the shoulder, and then you're going to lift up about halfway. And you're going to try to lift the whole way up, okay? So the idea is to do it without a swing or without cheating like I did. I'm sure you noticed by lifting your legs up. In case you're wondering, when I lift my legs up like that and make them a little bit longer, just makes me a bit heavier on that side. So helps me to get some weight to sit up. Really good tactic if you're trying to get up smoothly from the ground. Not what we're looking for here. So we're actually looking at what kind of engagement. So although I don't recommend the sit-up, definitely going to be a good one to retest for me after we've done all this work. Okay, so the first little place that we're going to look is going to be your thoracic spine. Okay, thoracic spine is the spine from the bottom of your neck down to the bottom of your ribs, and it's going to be quite involved in our core activation, core stability, because it is the major, spit my own tongue, definitely some core issues going on here. It is the major part of your spine that is involved with muscle recruitment and muscle activation. So we want, if we can make that move a little bit better, a little bit nicer, then often the muscles surrounding are just going to switch themselves off. So the first thing that we're going to do to try and open up some space in our thoracic spine is literally just stand as tall as we possibly can go, okay? So we'll call this a standing extension. The way it's going to work, you're going to shift your weight back slightly on your heels, okay? You don't want to go so far back that you can feel lots of tension in your knees. All of this should feel fairly relaxed, okay? So you're just going to lean slightly back in a kind of relaxed manner. From there, you're going to imagine you put a ball or something on your head, and you're going to try to just straighten yourself up as tall as you can possibly go. This can be even better if you're doing it with your eyes closed. And if you found that your left side or your right side shoulder circles were much harder to control your trunk rotation, then what you're going to do is you're going to rotate your body also in that direction. So mostly thoracic spine, but we can also do a little bit with the neck too, okay? I'm going to stay in the middle because mine were pretty even both sides. And I'm just going to lengthen up, make myself up as straight as I can possibly go. Again, you want to stay fairly relaxed. Don't worry too much if that feels impossible. If you feel like you're really tensing up, just think, can I relax a little bit more from this? If the answer is no, again, you don't need to worry too much. So we're just going to hang out here for another 15 seconds or so, just staying nice and tall, and eyes closed, eyes open. Up to you for now. We'll talk about how our eyes might affect our core in a little bit. For now, it's just creating some space in those joints. Okay, and once we've done that, just relax. Up to you if you want to retest. So you can retest your sit-up, you can retest your shoulder circles, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do one more at the end and see has it all worked together. But for those of you who've been following us for a long time, you'll know actually probably a good idea to pause the video, retest after each one and see is there one exercise in particular that's helping, rather than assuming we need to do all of this stuff to see the improvements. So next two little things that we're going to do is to get the thoracic spine moving. So for this exercise, we're going to go arms out, nice and wide. And the first step of getting your thoracic spine moving is you're just going to reach out as if you're trying to reach out and grab something just far away, okay? You can do whatever you want. Let's say we're going to keep your legs straight for now, but whatever helps it move, okay? So you can move, shift your weight in your hips, just whatever gets you to reach a little bit further. Okay, now once we've done that a few times, we're going to bring your feet together and we're going to try the same thing. So now you're going to find it much harder to move, to shift your weight. Even if you can shift your weight a little bit, it's not going to go very far. So actually more of the work now has to be done by the upper spine here, okay? So we're just going to reach out, reach out. If you can do that comfortably, we're going to try and do it without the arms. You're going to see, can you just shift side to side with your upper thoracic spine, okay? As you're doing this, hopefully, if I'm doing it correctly, which I might not be because I keep looking down at the monitor here, you should be seeing my shoulders pretty flat. I should be able to put something flat on my shoulders and not have it fall off. Okay, again, this is my kind of comfortable speed here. Actually, it might not be because I was starting to think I'm moving my hips a bit too much. But you can move this at any speed. As long as you're getting some movement, that's going to be good for the core. Next up, we're going to do some thoracic kind of flexion, extension, just again in the upper spine. But to begin with, we're going to keep those legs straight. We're going to just roll yourself down. You're going to straighten yourself up. We're going to do that a couple of times. For today, you know, if you're into kind of yoga and movement practice and you want to go vertebrae by vertebrae, by all means. For today, we just want you moving better than it previously was. So any kind of rolling is probably good. You can choose what kind of level you're at. Notice I'm also not going too much into an arch in this one, but that's totally up to you. If you want to extend it and add some arch at the same time, that can be pretty good as well. Okay. Final thing, point I'm going to add to this is if you can add some breathing to it. So as you're rolling down, breathe out. As you're rolling up, breathe in. That can sometimes help you get just a little bit more range. Today it's a little bit less important than other days though, so just the rolling is fine for now. Next thing we're going to do is you're going to pick a target on the wall in front of you. You're going to look at that target, and now you're going to do the same thing. So you're going up as far as you can, you're going down as far as you can, but your eyes the entire time are going to be fixed on this target. And that's just going to isolate the spine from the neck a little bit. So your neck is now not doing as much work, which means now your thoracic spine has to do a little bit more work. Okay, from there, if you can, you're going to try to take your shoulders out of it. Okay, so you might have already been doing this already, but there's a tendency as you try to use your spine, as you try to round your back, for a lot of people, their shoulders are going to want to roll forwards. Okay, and that's just because the muscles around there, like your pecs, pretty big muscles that can help emphasize to your brain what kind of movement you want to do. So if you find that as you're rolling forwards, your shoulders are coming forwards, shoulders are coming backwards, now you're going to see, can you still do the movement, keeping the shoulders in one place in space? And what you probably have noticed is my movement has got much, much smaller here, okay? So we just go in either way with those. And now, one final variation is, again, if you found that this was worse on the left side or the right side, then actually you can do all this with that rotation still. So you can be doing the lateral glides, you can be doing the anterior posterior flexion extension glides in that same rotated position, and that will help a little bit more there, okay? So that's all we're gonna do for the spine. Feel free to retest anything you like. You can try some of those circles and see, are they better or have they got a little bit worse? If so, that means you've probably done a little bit too much already. You might want to dose this, chop it up even smaller. Once we've done the spine, we're now going to look to a few other parts of the brain that might be helpful for activating the core. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be the vestibular system, okay? So again, if our spine is important in keeping us balanced, and our core musculature is also important in keeping us balanced, then our vestibular system, which controls all of that spinal musculature, is going to be really important as well, okay? What we're going to look at here is something called a vestibulo-ocular reflex. For this, we've done it a few times before in these sessions, but just as a nice quick reminder, you're going to be staring at your thumb. Now, while you're staring at your thumb, you want it to stay nice and clear. You don't want it to split into two, and you don't want it to get any more blurry than it currently is, okay? So if it's already blurry, you're not wearing your glasses, whatever, that is fine, but you don't want it to be, as you start moving your head, you don't want it to be getting any more blurry, okay? For the vestibular ocular reflex, you're going to be turning your head side to side while maintaining focus on the thumb. It's not getting any more blurry and it's not splitting into two, okay? If it's not doing either of those things, then you can speed it up. And actually your job is to find what is the fastest you can get your head to go. I think I'm just on the edge of it for me. You might be able to go faster, you might not be able to go anywhere near that, but you're gonna find the fastest that you can maintain that. All the while, we're gonna go back into that nice, strong, extended spine position, or the nice, strong, extended and rotated spine position, okay? So stand nice and tall. Extra points if you want to increase the balance challenge. So that could be with feet together, one foot in front of the other. You could even do this on one foot. The only thing I will say about doing it on one foot is make sure you're still keeping the tall spine. So if you're 1 foot, but actually your hips out and you're kind of a little bit squashed, that's not going to be as good as being more stable, but feeling like you can stand up much taller. So from there, we're going to do that same exercise, going left and right to begin with. Going to go for about 15 seconds. Say about 15 seconds. I have no sense of timing when I'm doing vestibular exercises, so I'm just going to keep going until I've kind of had enough. Then we're going to go up and down, okay? So same thing with your head moving up and down. You're going to find the maximum speed you can do this, where your head feels, first of all, like it's going in a straight line, and that your thumb is not blurry and not splitting into two. It's very hard to talk while doing this one. Then we're going to do diagonals. So you're going to imagine there's a pen on your nose. It's going to draw a diagonal line up to the left, a diagonal line down to the right. Now, bear in mind, if you're not really well practiced in this, as your nose goes past your thumb, there's going to be a pretty strong tendency for it to split into two and then jump back. So you might want to limit the range of this to be quite small so that your nose doesn't cover up what one of the eyes can see. I hope that makes sense. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now the reason this exercise can be, I'll let you have a retest and see if anything got any better just from what we've been doing so far. The reason this exercise can be really effective is one of the whole reasons we need to have good core musculature is to stop our head bouncing around on top of our body, okay? And the reason that we need that is so that our eyes can see a still picture while we're moving through space. So this vestibular ocular reflex is pretty much the difference between you being able to see things clearly and your whole world looking like a Michael Bay Transformers movie. And if this wasn't the case, everything would be jumping around. You would really struggle to effectively move anywhere. Now, your neck can only stay still on top of your trunk if your trunk isn't also moving around at the same time. So if that is the case, the neck has to work harder to stay still, which means the eyes are going to have a harder time. You're probably going to see a drop in your visual acuity, and you're probably going to see a lack of motivation to actually do any movements at all. Okay, so that vestibular ocular reflex can be really useful for all of those reasons mainly. Okay, so once we've looked at the vestibular ocular reflex, we're now going to have a look at the tongue. Okay, so the tongue has a load of pretty close and pretty strong connections with the core musculature. Part of this is because of how old tongues are in the kind of evolutionary cycle. You have fish that have jaws, tongues, spines, and not much else. So actually, all of those things used to be one strong unit, and they therefore influence each other a lot more strongly than some of the newer bits and appendages that we've ended up adding on to ourselves. The other thing with the tongue is it's the first point of our digestive system, and our digestive system is mostly around here in the belly. So that's where your stomach, your intestines, a little bit lower, all the way down to the bladder. All of that sits around the same place that is trying to govern and control your core. So when your tongue's happy, when your digestive system is happy, it's probably much easier to stabilize and engage your core. When it's not so happy, actually, and it knows it needs to be doing a little bit more work, you'll probably find you can still get the core engagement, but it's more in the kind of range of inflammation and stiffness rather than your ability to switch something on and actually feel like you're controlled and balanced. So your diet can play a really strong role, but your tongue also. So we're just going to have a quick look at one exercise. I'm going to do this sitting down so I can be closer to the camera because it's a little hard to explain. But again, feel free to do this in the standing or rotated standing positions. So this is called the Around the World tongue drill. And what you're going to do, your tongue is going to sit in front of your teeth, but behind your lips. And then you don't need to bare your teeth. I'm just trying to hopefully show you what this looks like in the camera. Good. Drawing with the tongue all the way around to the back of the teeth, curling down to the bottom teeth, all the way around. We're going to try 3 times each direction. You want to get a little bit further towards the back each time, okay? And this is going to be like an isometric exercise for your tongue. Now, if you've been dealing with issues like tongue ties and things like that, and actually your tongue doesn't feel like it can move so well, another option you can do is you can just stick your tongue out forwards and you can try some isometric resistance. So tongue out, and then you're just going to try and push it to the side. Then to the other side. It's so much weaker on mine. And then we're going to go straight down. And then you're going to go straight up. Also, that bottom one, much weaker on me, so I might actually try that before the very end when I retest this core exercise. But yeah, you're going to try 3 times either way, retest, and again, see, are you seeing any improvements with the core stuff, okay? And final little thing that I want to throw in, so I did say we weren't going to go down to the ground. We're not going to go down to the ground to lie on our back, but another really good way to get full core engagement is the classic exercise that we all know, the plank. So again, we've been looking at the neurology around all of these things. Actually, it can be good to look a little bit at, can we do all these things while engaging the muscles at the same time in a way that still isn't as passive as the work we do lying on your back. So basically, as an analogy, when you lie down on your back, that's about as stable as your core can get. There's nothing going to knock it out of place or out of balance. When you get into a plank position, this is going to be much more challenging for our balance. So actually, we should still get a little bit more engagement. Is it going to translate exactly to us standing up? Probably not, but it's definitely a good idea to at least try that. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do a little bit like how we normally do it in these sessions. We're going to create a stack, and we're going to just see how many of these stacks we can stick on top of each other. Okay, so we're going to get down into a front support or plank position, just making sure you can all see me. You're going to increase the balance challenge as much as you can, and you're going to really think about doing this lengthening movement with your spine. Okay, so you're going to try to make your spine as long as possible. Doesn't mean you need to reach your arms up over your head. If you're one of those ab wheel nuts and you want to go really hardcore with it, then be my guest. But that's not what we need to go for here. But just think about making yourself nice and long and tall. From there, we're going to choose a spot on the ground, and you're going to try either eyes up and down with the vestibulo-ocular reflex, or eyes left and right. From here, it's kind of up to you, okay? So there's two options. You could either go for that diaphragm stretch style exhale and just do a really nice, long, loud, sharp exhale until you've got no breath left. Or if you test it a little bit better from the tongue drill, then you can try the tongue drill instead and just see, can you do 3 times round, 3 times round the other way while still coordinating that vestibulo-ocular reflex. So altogether, that's going to look like this. So look at the target, you're doing a nice deep breath in, you start to do that vestibulo-ocular reflex, so keep your target as one target and not so blurry, and then you're going to breathe out. Oh man, definitely couldn't breathe out for as long on that one. So once you've done that, obviously you can try with different eye positions, different tongue directions. You can try with different arm positions. You can bring your arms slightly closer to increase the balance challenge. Give yourself one final retest. I'm going to see through all this talking and very little movement, did I get any kind of results with this sit-up? So I'm going to lift up to halfway. Okay, I'm happy with that. Little lift still off the ground, so I could certainly do with a little bit more of this, but definitely an improvement from before. So that is core strength. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if there's any questions. If this was useful to you, there is also a video on deep flexor muscles. So just kind of global body flexion. That can also be quite good for core activation. I'm going to go tomorrow morning and just have a check through to find out, is it labeled flexor muscles or is it just labeled with the date? If it's the date, I'm going to just change them all to match the theme, just so that they're a little bit easier to find. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.